Hello. I've jumped on to talk about owning your inner bitch. And the reason I talk about this is so we can be safer in our vulnerability and our softness. And when I say inner bitch, we could also label this owning the inner masculine. But I feel for women, it just has a lot more resonance to say inner bitch because that word has been constructed as something in society that we are not meant to embrace. So I feel that it's very empowering to shift that and reframe it as something that actually is needed and isn't a bad thing to own. It's not bad to own your inner bitch. So I've been on a journey with this concept of being a bitch. When I was 16, I bought this book, and you might have heard of it. It's called Why Men Love Bitches. And when I read the book, I got it, but I kind of resented the whole idea around it. Because at the time, in my head, what I got from the book was men love bitches, which means that in order for women to be loved, we have to be hard and assertive and we have to act aloof and like we don't care. I perceived it as we have to play a game, basically. We can't just be in our softness and be open-hearted with men. We have to play a game in order to be loved. Because at the time, I couldn't understand the concept of being like a bitch unless it meant playing a game and wearing this armor around my heart. I didn't understand that that was something that you could naturally embody in a healthy way. And it's interesting because I did a retreat very recently, the present with Yana and Yeneso, and we had a whole day pretty much centered around boundaries and what that means to us and how do we assert our boundaries. And when I was unpicking my boundaries and why there had been so much resistance around implementing them, what I discovered was it was this concept of if I assert my boundaries, if I speak up and say what I really feel, then I'm going to be perceived as a bitch. And what we believe consciously and subconsciously can be very contradicting things. Because in my head, I would have never have said that I think that having boundaries means that you're a bitch. I don't think that consciously. But something within me felt that there was something that would make me a bitch if I was to implement boundaries, that meant that I wasn't a good person. Something in me felt that and believed it. And this is why, you know, for myself, and I know for other women as well, I feel that it's important to say that we are okay with being a bitch, that we are okay with owning that part of us, because actually, when we own our bitch, we're safer in our vulnerability. We're able to be soft and open-hearted without losing ourselves and accepting behavior which can chip away at our self-esteem and our sense of safety. So just because I'm open-hearted and vulnerable doesn't mean that I will accept anything, doesn't mean that I will compromise myself and not be met halfway. And I feel that the inner bitch is our support. It's like our inner protector. Because when we're owning our inner bitch, we're coming from a place of abundance. We're not seeking validation because we already validate ourselves. So when we come from abundance, it allows us to receive more. It allows us to receive more love. And when I say, owning our bitch, it isn't about being angry or resentful and telling people to fuck off. It's not that kind of energy. It's the energy which says, no, I'm going to listen to myself and trust myself. I'm not going against my boundaries or what feels comfortable. I'm not going to justify myself. I don't need your validation because I validate myself. It's all those kind of feels. And, of course, when we look into that, that's not what I or you probably define as a bitch, but there's something in society which has conditioned us to believe that that isn't an acceptable or loving quality to have, especially as a woman. So yeah, as I said, inner bitch is very similar to inner masculine. I just feel that for women, there's a lot of resonance there because of the way that word has been used against us. And yeah, I think that we really need to shift it and reframe it so it's something that we actually consciously call in and own. When we own our inner bitch, we respect our boundaries. If someone isn't meeting us halfway, then we fuck it off. Because we're not going to overgive and overextend ourselves to have our needs met. Because when we do that, we're crossing other people's boundaries, and we can then start to become manipulative ourselves because we try and push our love onto people. So actually, if we're owning our inner bitch, we're not going to do that because we don't need to push anything onto anyone. We're either met halfway and it's equal, or we pull back. And it's not pulling back from a place where we're playing games or we're trying to appear like we don't care. We're pulling back because that's our boundary. Because it's either equal or it's not at all. We're not going to push it because, I need you to validate me and I need my needs met and I need to know that you approve of me, because we already have that within, because we're sourcing our love ourselves. We are that love, and anyone else in our lives is an extension of that, but we're not dependent on them giving it to us. Everything I'm speaking about now is a huge theme in the course that I've just launched, Love Like a Queen, where we will be uncovering this, why some of us struggled so much to implement boundaries, why we can have our boundaries crossed, why we cross other people's. Again, what I find as well is when we have these codependent attachment styles, often we view the world as the world crosses our boundaries. The world is intruding upon us. But actually, when we're seeking validation from others, like I said, we can also be the ones to push others' boundaries, because we're pushing to be loved. We're pushing to be needed. We're pushing to be met halfway, rather than being honest with ourselves about the relationship and saying, okay, well, if I'm not getting met back with 50%, then I'm going to leave it there. Again, not out of resentment, not out of anger. It's a self-respect thing, and it's respecting the other person as well. I've told myself many times in the past with men, they're just confused. They don't know what they want. They don't know how to express their emotions. So I would keep pushing on them and the relationship, and I would keep giving, because I felt that underneath they did really want to give, but they just didn't know how. And I wasn't respecting their boundaries, because a part of them didn't want to give. A part of them didn't want to meet me halfway. And when that happens, we have to accept that. So if any of this is resonating with you and you've had experiences around this, or it's currently something that you're really sitting with, I'd love to hear from you. If you're interested in the course that I'm running, Love Like a Queen, it starts next Wednesday, the 19th of September. It's a 4-week group course. There'll be one live teaching a week. After each teaching, there'll be questions and guidance being offered. I'll be giving tasks every week to aid the healing around this and the learning, and also be giving ongoing support throughout the course. So if you feel like this is something you could do within your life, then lean in, reach out. I'd love to hear from you.